Zuri never expected her life to fall apart in a single evening, but it did. It happened in Port Harcourt, right in the living room she grew up in. Ma was shouting about her wedding again, the dress she wanted, the hall she wanted, the money she expected Zuri to pay. And Zuri, tired from work, simply said, "I don't have that kind of money. I can't fund your wedding." The whole house went silent. Her father looked at her like she was a stranger. Her mother crossed her arms and said sharply, "After everything we've done for you, you can't help your sister?" But Zuri stayed calm. She repeated quietly, "I can't afford it, and it's not my responsibility." That was the moment everything snapped. Her father pointed at the door and said the words that sliced through her chest. "If you cannot support this family, then you are not part of it. Get out." Ma didn't stop him. In fact, she smirked. Zuri packed her small bag with shaking hands. No one stopped her. No one asked where she would sleep. As she stepped out into the night, her mother shouted after her, "Don't come back until you're ready to behave like family." The door slammed behind her. Zuri stood outside, trembling but strangely calm. She had no plan, no savings, and nowhere to go. But she whispered to herself, "If this is the price of peace, I'll pay it." That night, she walked away from the house that raised her, and from the people who chose pride over love. It was the beginning of her hardest chapter, but also the start of her freedom. Zuri's new life didn't start with magic. It started with exhaustion. She worked 2 jobs, one at a small bakery in the mornings and another at a customer service desk in the evenings. Most nights, she came home so tired she fell asleep in her clothes. But she refused to complain. Every coin she earned went into a small envelope tucked under her mattress. That envelope became her hope, her motivation, her proof that she could build a life on her own. Months turned into years. Zuri lived simply. No fancy clothes, no outings, no unnecessary spending. While others traveled, she stayed home and cooked cheap meals. While her co-workers bought new phones, she repaired the same old one again and again. But quietly, something beautiful was happening. She was growing stronger, independent, fierce. And then one bright morning in Lekki, she held the keys to her own house. It wasn't big, but it was hers. Clean walls, soft paint, sunlight in the living room. She walked from room to room with tears in her eyes, whispering, "I did this. Me." Her parents never called. Ma blocked her on every platform. Family gatherings happened without her. But instead of breaking her, the silence healed her. She learned to sleep peacefully. She learned to smile again. She started planting small flowers outside her new home, and each one felt like a piece of her heart coming back to life. For the first time in so long, Zuri felt safe. She felt proud. She felt free. One evening, after cooking a simple dinner and settling into her couch, she heard a knock at the door. A slow, heavy knock, the kind that doesn't come from a delivery or a neighbor. Her chest tightened. No one knew her address except a few trusted friends. No one ever visited unannounced. For a moment, she just stared at the door, feeling her heartbeat thudding in her ears. Then the knock came again, louder this time. Zuri stood up slowly, wiped her hands on her jeans, and walked toward the door. She didn't know it yet, but this knock, this unexpected sound, was about to pull her back into a world she thought she had escaped forever. And nothing in her peaceful life would be the same again. When Zuri finally opened the door, she froze. Her parents were standing there, the same people who kicked her out 5 years ago. Her mother was holding a fake smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. Her father looked older, tired, but still carried that same intimidating silence she remembered too well. "Zuri, my daughter," her mother said softly, as if the past never happened. Zuri didn't know what to say. She stepped aside slowly and let them in, her heart pounding. They sat on her sofa, admiring the house like tourists visiting a museum. Her mother touched the throw pillows and said, "You've done well for yourself." Her father nodded like a proud parent, except he wasn't proud when she needed him the most. The whole thing felt wrong. Too warm. Too friendly. Then her mother sighed dramatically and said, "We didn't come for small talk." Zuri's stomach dropped. Her father cleared his throat. "Your sister. Ma, she's in trouble." Zuri waited. "She owes money," her mother added. "A lot of money." "How much?" Zuri asked quietly. Her father looked her straight in the eyes and said the number like it was nothing. $200,000. Zuri felt the air leave her chest. What? They explained everything in bits and pieces. Failed business attempts, loans upon loans, investors demanding their money back. And just when Zuri thought it couldn't get worse, her mother said, "They might arrest her if she doesn't pay soon." Zuri leaned back, her hands shaking slightly. She didn't hate Ma, but she couldn't forget how she was treated. No calls, no apologies, no support. Just silence for 5 long years. And now they were acting like family again. Then her father delivered the real reason for their sudden visit. "You have a house," he said calmly, like it was an obvious solution. "Sell it and help your sister. Family must sacrifice." Zuri blinked. Once. Her chest tightened so much it hurt. Family. Where was family when she was sleeping on couches? Where was family when she cried herself to sleep at night? Where was family when they threw her out like she was nothing? She swallowed hard. "You disowned me," she whispered. "Remember?" Her mother waved her hand dismissively. "We were emotional. This is bigger than that. You can rebuild. Your sister can't." Zuri stared at them, the people who never defended her, never supported her, never even checked if she was alive. And now they wanted her to lose everything she worked for. Her house, her peace, her freedom. Her father leaned forward, voice firm. "Zuri, you must do this. For us." But for the first time in her life, Zuri didn't feel small in front of them. She didn't feel powerless. She didn't feel desperate for their approval. Instead, she felt angry. And that anger was about to change everything. For the next few days, Zuri's house felt like a trap. Her parents kept showing up early in the morning, staying until late evening, circling her like she was a bank account instead of a daughter. Every conversation turned into pressure. Every silence felt heavy. Her father would sigh loudly and shake his head. Her mother would wipe imaginary tears. And Ma, the sister who blocked her for 5 years, suddenly acted like they were close again. One afternoon, Ma sat on Zuri's couch, fake crying loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Zuri, please," she sobbed, even though her eyes were completely dry. "My life is over if you don't help me. You want me to go to prison." Zuri just watched her quietly. There was a time when Ma's tears controlled her. Not anymore. Her mother jumped in, voice sharp and guilt-filled. "We fed you, raised you, paid your school fees. You owe us. You owe this family. Is this how children repay their parents?" Zuri felt the sting of those words, like tiny needles poking old bruises. She stayed calm on the outside, but inside, her old wounds were bleeding again. Memories she had buried deep began to rise. The night she slept on a friend's couch with only one meal in her stomach, the time she worked double shifts just to survive, the humiliation of being blocked by her own sister on every app, the birthdays spent alone, the weeks she cried herself to sleep wondering why her own parents hated her. She remembered standing in the rain the night they kicked her out, her bag soaked, her heart breaking while her mother locked the door behind her. She remembered her father's voice. "You are not family anymore." And now these same people were telling her she owed them. Every time Zuri didn't answer the way they wanted, her mother exaggerated her pain. "We're suffering. Your father cannot sleep. Look how you are stressing us." Her father folded his arms and said in a firm voice, "Zuri, stop being stubborn. You have a house. You are comfortable. Your sister needs you. Comfortable." If only they knew how much she had struggled to build this comfort. Still, Zuri didn't yell. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She just listened, quietly, letting their words wash over her like poison she refused to swallow. But that quiet wasn't weakness. It was control. Because deep inside her chest, Zuri felt something shifting. Something old, something tired, something that had been stepped on for years, finally rising. They thought they could guilt her into giving up everything she built. They didn't know Zuri anymore. They didn't know how strong she had become. And soon they were going to learn. Zuri knew something wasn't right. The story her parents told her didn't sit well in her chest. Business failure. Unexpected loss. It all sounded too clean, too innocent, and Ma was anything but innocent. So Zuri decided to do something she had never done before: investigate her own family. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't ask for permission. She just started digging quietly, using every skill she had learned from years of surviving alone. When her parents thought she was at work, she was online gathering information. When Ma was pretending to cry on the phone, Zuri was checking loan databases and business registrations. When everyone thought she was being difficult, she was uncovering the truth. And the truth hit her like a slap. The first thing she found was a series of gambling transactions. Huge amounts. Transfers made in the middle of the night. Payments to online betting platforms. Casino app receipts. All under Ma's name. Zuri stared at the screen in disbelief. So this was where the money went. But it didn't stop there. She kept looking, following the trail, and soon found records of expensive designer bags. Luxury labels worth millions of naira, bought on credit. Shoes, jewelry, custom wigs. None of it necessary, all of it expensive. Zuri shook her head. Ma wasn't drowning in debt because of a business. She was drowning because of greed. Then came the worst part. Zuri discovered messages and receipts from fake travel schemes. Those Canada visa, Dubai job placement, Europe relocation scams. Except Ma wasn't a victim. She was involved. She paid agents, lied to her parents, took money from people to help them travel, and when everything fell apart, she borrowed more money to cover the mess. It wasn't $200,000 from one mistake. It was $200,000 from lies stacked on lies, month after month, year after year. Zuri sat on her bed, staring at the evidence spread before her. Her hands shook, not from fear, from disappointment, from anger, from betrayal that tasted familiar, yet still painful. Her parents came begging as if Ma was an innocent child who just slipped once. But the truth was clear. Ma didn't make a mistake. She made a lifestyle. A lifestyle built on greed, entitlement, and recklessness. A lifestyle she expected Zuri to pay for. Zuri closed her laptop slowly and whispered to herself, "They think I'm the same girl they kicked out, but I see everything now." And for the first time since her parents returned, she felt calm, because she finally knew the truth, and she was ready to confront them with it. Zuri decided she wasn't going to shout. She wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to let anyone twist her words. If they wanted a conversation, she would give them the truth, clean, clear, and impossible to run from. So she invited them all to her house. Her parents came first, looking hopeful. Then Ma walked in, acting confused and annoyed, like she was being forced to participate in something beneath her. They all sat in Zuri's living room, the same room they wanted her to sell, the same room she built with her own struggle. Zuri stood in front of them, calm, steady, almost too quiet. "Before we talk about money," she said softly, "we need to talk about the truth." She picked up her tablet, connected it to a small speaker, and pressed play. Immediately, Ma's voice filled the room, bragging in a voice note about winning big money from online gambling. Her laughter echoed loudly. Her parents' eyes widened. Zuri didn't pause. She opened a folder and began showing bank statements, transfers to gambling sites, payments for luxury bags, huge withdrawals made at odd hours. Every slide told a story Ma couldn't hide. Then came hotel charges. Weekend trips with no business meetings, no work events, just expensive rooms and room service. Ma's face turned red. "Zuri, stop this. Why are you doing this?" Zuri ignored her. She opened screenshots of conversations Ma had with fake travel agents, not as a victim, but as someone paying to join shady schemes. She even found messages wherein Ma borrowed money from people, promising returns she never delivered. Her parents stared at the evidence like the ground was disappearing beneath them. Finally, Zuri looked directly at her sister and said, "You told them it was an accident, but it wasn't. This is years of greed." Ma jumped up angrily. "You're trying to embarrass me." Zuri didn't flinch. "No, I'm trying to show them the truth. You wanted me to destroy my life, for someone who won't stop destroying hers." Silence fell over the room. Her mother's hands covered her mouth. "Ma, is this true?" Her father rubbed his forehead, breathing heavily. "All this money, all this time." Ma looked around desperately, but there was nowhere to hide. The lies she built for years had finally collapsed in front of her. Zuri took a deep breath. I worked for everything I have. You all threw me away and I still survived. I won't lose my home because someone refuses to take responsibility for her own decisions. Her father tried to speak, but no words came out. For the first time ever, Zuri wasn't the quiet one being shouted at. She was the one holding the truth. She was the one in control. She was the one deciding the next step. And everyone in the room knew it. The moment the truth hit the room, everything snapped. Ma shot up from the sofa like she'd been burned. Her face twisted with anger, and before Zuri could move, she rushed toward her, shoving her shoulder hard. So this is what you wanted? Ma screamed. To disgrace me. You think you're better than me just because you bought a house. Zuri stumbled back a little but didn't fall. She stood her ground, steady and calm, looking straight into the eyes of the sister who used to bully her growing up. I'm not better than you, Zuri said quietly. I just made better choices. That's all. Ma froze for a second, shocked by how unaffected Zuri was. Then she exploded again, pushing her harder, yelling, You're nothing. If it wasn't for our parents, you'd still be sleeping in someone's spare room. Who do you think you are? Her parents jumped in, trying to separate them, but the damage was already done. Ma kept screaming, her voice shaking with rage and embarrassment. You have a house and you think that makes you a queen. You're still the same useless girl they kicked out. Zuri looked at her calmly, her voice soft but powerful. And yet, I survived. And I built everything you see without hurting anyone. That made Ma even angrier. She tried to lunge again, but her father grabbed her arm. Enough, Ma. Then, instead of calming the situation, he turned to Zuri, eyes cold, voice firm. Zuri, this is your family. Stop this nonsense. Sell this house and help your sister. That's the only option. Zuri couldn't believe it. After all the evidence, after all the lies uncovered, he still expected her to sacrifice everything. Her mother nodded urgently, wiping tears. Listen to your father. This is your duty. We raised you. You must do this. Zuri felt something inside her switch off, the last tiny piece of hope that maybe they loved her, even a little. She walked to the door slowly. Her parents watched her, thinking she was finally giving in. Zuri unlocked the door, opened it wide, and turned back to face them. Her voice didn't shake. Her eyes didn't water. Her hands didn't tremble. Get out, she said. A heavy silence dropped over the room. Her father blinked. What did you say? Zuri pointed to the open doorway. Get. All of you. Now. Ma's mouth fell open. Her mother gasped. Her father's face turned red with anger. But Zuri didn't care anymore. She wasn't the desperate girl they kicked out. She wasn't the quiet daughter they could guilt into anything. This was her home, her peace, her life, and she wasn't going to let anyone destroy it. One by one they walked out, shocked, speechless, trembling with disbelief. Zuri closed the door gently behind them, locked it, leaned her back against it, and breathed. For the first time since her childhood, the air around her felt hers. Her space, her safety, her silence. And she wasn't giving it up for anyone. News travels fast in Lekki, especially when drama is involved. By the next morning, the entire neighborhood seemed to know what had happened. People didn't need details. They just saw the loud shouting, the angry exit, and the way Zuri stood firm at her door like someone who'd finally had enough. Some of her neighbors pretended not to be nosy, but they whispered anyway. That girl built her life from nothing, one woman murmured at the gate. Her family abandoned her. Why come back now? Another man added. She owes them nothing. Absolutely nothing. And for once, the whispers didn't hurt Zuri. They defended her. A few of her neighbors, people who had watched her carry groceries alone, fix her own leaking tap, clean her front yard quietly, knocked on her door later that day. They didn't pry. They didn't ask for the story. They simply said things like, "Be strong. You did the right thing. We saw how hard you worked. You're not alone, my dear." Zuri felt something warm in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Support. That evening, Her phone began buzzing one call after another. At first she ignored it, thinking it was her parents again. But when she finally checked, she was shocked. Aunties she hadn't spoken to in years were calling. Uncles were sending voice notes. Cousins she barely interacted with had sent messages like, "I heard everything. Stand your ground. Don't give them 1 naira. You suffered alone. Now let them face what they created." One older aunt whispered on the phone, "Zuri, your parents were wrong. We all know it. Ma's behavior has been out of control for years. I'm proud of you for speaking up." Zuri blinked back tears. For the first time, someone in her bloodline said they were proud of her. Even her late grandmother's best friend, Mama Igioma, called her with a shaky voice and said, "Your grandmother would be clapping for you right now. Don't bend for anyone, my child." Zuri sat on her couch with her phone in her hands, surrounded by messages of love, support, and validation she never expected. She had spent years believing she had no one, years thinking she was the outcast, years convincing herself that being alone was her fate. But now she saw the truth. She wasn't alone. She never had been. She just needed to break free for people to see her clearly. And as she read one more message, "We're with you, Zuri. No more suffering in silence," she felt something settle inside her. Strength, confidence, belonging. For the first time in her life, Zuri felt seen, and the world around her finally felt a little less heavy. They came back on a quiet evening, the kind of evening Zuri usually spent watering her small garden or sitting on her porch with tea. But this time, she heard the familiar voices before she even reached the gate. Her parents. She opened the door slowly. They looked nothing like the people who had stormed out days earlier. Her father's shoulders were slumped, his eyes tired. Her mother looked like she hadn't slept in days. Even their clothes looked worn, like life had squeezed the pride out of them. For a moment Zuri just stared. 5 years without them, then days of pressure, then the explosion. And now this. Her mother stepped forward first, her voice trembling. "Zuri, please. We need your help." Zuri didn't respond. She simply waited. Her father swallowed hard. "The people Ma borrowed from, they are threatening legal action. Serious action. They say if she doesn't pay." He couldn't finish. Her mother burst into quiet tears. "They might arrest Ma," she whispered. "Please, Zuri. She's your sister. We are your parents. Help us." Zuri felt the wind brush her face gently, almost as if the world was pausing for her answer. She looked at them, really looked. These were the same parents who told her she was not family anymore. The same people who watched her struggle alone. The same people who tried to guilt her into selling the only thing she owned. The same people who defended Ma even after seeing all the truth. Now they were here, standing outside her gate, begging. Zuri's heart didn't harden, it steadied. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't crying. She wasn't afraid. She had simply reached the point where clarity became louder than emotion. She took a slow breath. "I'm sorry you're going through this," she said softly. "But Ma made her choices. And so did you." Her mother shook her head desperately. "But she's your blood." "Blood," Zuri said calmly, "does not erase responsibility." Her father tried again. "You can save her. Just this once." Zuri looked him straight in the eye. "Where were you when I needed saving?" Silence fell heavy. Her mother wiped her face. "We regret everything. But please, don't let her go to jail." Zuri didn't raise her voice. She didn't defend herself. She simply stood there and said the words she should have said years ago. "Actions have consequences. Including yours." Her mother's knees buckled. Her father looked away, ashamed. Zuri stepped back into her compound, her hands steady. She closed the gate slowly but firmly. No slamming, no drama, just a final clear boundary. Her parents didn't fight it. They didn't yell. They just stood there, defeated. And when the gate clicked shut, Zuri felt something lift off her shoulders, a weight she had carried since childhood. She wasn't abandoning them. She was protecting herself. Finally, fully, fearlessly. Months passed, and Zuri's little house in Lekki began to feel like a true home. She painted the walls herself, added small touches here and there, planted flowers that finally bloomed under her care. Each corner reflected her hard work, her taste, and the freedom she had fought so hard to protect. One evening, she decided to host a dinner, not for her parents, not for Ma, but for friends who had stood by her, friends who had celebrated her wins and comforted her during the hard times. The table was full, warm lights, homemade dishes, laughter that felt safe and genuine. At one point, someone gently asked, "Zuri, do you ever regret not helping them? Your sister, your parents?" Zuri paused, looking around at the smiling faces, at the warmth and love that surrounded her. She took a slow breath, her eyes soft but steady. "I finally learned," she said quietly. "Peace doesn't come from saving the wrong people. It comes from valuing yourself and knowing when to walk away." The room fell into a comfortable silence, the words settling like sunlight. Her friends nodded, understanding the depth of what she had lived through. Later she stepped outside. The air was cool, the night calm. She stood in front of her house, the place she had built with her own hands and her own courage. The walls glowed softly in the evening light. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze. For the first time in years, Zuri felt complete, proud, free. The camera would have faded on her smile, her posture strong, her chest light. This was her victory, her peace. The home she refused to sacrifice for anyone who never valued her in the first place. And in that moment, Zuri knew she had truly come full circle.